Good morning. Don Keith with the Diary of a Psychotic video blog. This video blog is brought to you by Campbell Soups. Good. Now, growing concern and horrific tragedies of the mass shootings, since Columbine to Sandy Hook to Uvalde, Texas. The loss of life is getting very hard on all of us. People, in Matthew McConaughey's words, are hurting. Now, our Second Amendment right reads as follows. This is exact. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. There's three parts to that amendment in the Bill of Rights, and that is that a well-regulated militia, in other words, a group of people who are voluntary first responders to an act of aggression locally. Now, an act of aggression can be from anyone. It could even be from the public servants who are betraying their oath. Okay, now, being necessary to the security of a free state. That means that everybody needs to preserve their liberty in a free state. Okay? It's each other's responsibility that we remain free. Okay? So, being ignorant of your neighbor is not the way to keep a free state. Now, we fought the Civil War over states' rights. Okay? What they consider to be rights in their state may not be considered rights in the next state over. Well, we fought the Civil War to say that state rights had to be the same as the constitutional rights of the federal government. And that's why the Union prevailed, and not the Confederacy. The Confederacy said that states' rights had priority. And we've still been fighting over that for the last few hundred years. That's right. We're still fighting the Civil War. The treaty at Appomattox was not a surrender agreement. It was not. It was two groups of the same army sitting down saying, okay, we're going to stop killing each other because this is ridiculous. We're slaughtering each other. In one day at Gettysburg, there were 10,000 casualties. 10,000 in one day. That's more than it was in Normandy in the first day. That's right. A lot. The reason why the casualties were so enormous is because they were all American casualties. Think about that. Now, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, that boils down to who gets to own a gun. All right? And according to this, anybody. Okay, now, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. Under certain circumstances, you have the right to own a rifle. But what is that rifle for? Well, in case of the Second Amendment, it's a military-grade weapon. When they first made this amendment, all right, it was right after the Revolutionary War. Okay? Think about that. Okay? We were using muskets. Muskets did a lot of damage back then. But now, the average American gun can go out and buy an AR-15. And with a slight modification of the spring and the return, it can become an automatic weapon. That means when you squeeze the trigger, pow, 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 all the rounds start coming out. That's right. Now, a semi-automatic weapon, you squeeze the trigger and a round comes out. Squeeze the trigger again, another round comes out. All right? The double action rifle, you have to cock it, fire it, cock it, fire it, cock it, fire it. That's called a repeater. They hold about 8 to 12 rounds for a repeater. That's the Winchester or the bolt action, the All right. Now, the semi-automatic weapon rifle is still the AR-15. Squeeze the trigger, squeeze the trigger, squeeze the trigger. As fast as you can squeeze the trigger, the rounds will come out. All right. Now, in my mind, there are too many of these firearms all across the nation already. Nobody needs to own something like that unless there is a well-regulated militia. Why don't we have well-regulated militias, you say? Well, for one thing, people don't want to pay for them, all right? They want to pay for the rifle, but they don't want to have anybody coming into their house and saying, okay, let's take a look at your AR-15 here. Click, click. You belong to the militia? Click. Yeah, I got a militia card right here. It's like, okay. If that were the case, then that would be cool. You know, that would be all right for everybody to be, well, 18, 21 to 65, you can be in the well-regulated state militia, all right? And you'd have your psychiatric evaluation every year, 6 months, depending on what your health is and what your age is. And you could own your AR-15 for hunting and sporting purposes. You could go to the state militia practice field. It's a well-regulated militia. And you could have that military-grade firearm. All right, that's what Matthew McConaughey described as responsible gun ownership. All right? Texans would have nothing to fear. Except the neighbor next door going off and saying, hey, your firearm's better than mine. It's a lot better than shooting at each other. And it's a lot better than the local lunatic getting a hold of an AR-15 and going into a house, a restaurant, a building, a mall, a grocery store, or any place else that has a lot of people that are innocent and don't own any firearms. So if we're going to own firearms, you better be willing to protect. If you're going to have control and ownership of a firearm, and that includes police officers, you better be willing to use it in defense of the people that don't have any firearms and figure they're safe. Because safety is an illusion now in the United States. I'm telling you that for a fact. Won't be any shout-outs today. But next week. Anyway, this is Don Keith with the Diary of a Psychotic video blog, brought to you by Campbell's Soups.